Welcome, I'm Roger Sanderson. We just cleared 2020, the first day. We're a few days deep into it. And so we have an exciting show to talk about recycling and how we deal with plastic and how we deal with so many of our products out at the landfill. And I have the opportunity to introduce two outstanding performers of those things, and Nancy and Jennifer, and what they have to handle out over the many years. But as we get started into 2020, first of all, welcome. Thanks for taking time out to be here.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
And Nancy, kind of talk to us. I mean, you're the solid waste director. You're in charge of all of the solid waste for Williamson County side. Awesome big job. Most people wouldn't think about a female being in this profession, and every county has a solid waste director, and I'm sure you're one of just a few. But
Yes.
you do an outstanding job, and of course, Jennifer, what you're doing over in the recycling world, which is on everybody's mind. How do we deal with products in the future? But before we get into that, let's kind of talk a little bit about you, the personal. How'd you get to this point, Nancy? And then Jennifer, I'll go to you.
I went back to college a little bit later in life. I went right out of high school to, it was David Lipscomb College at the time. And then I had a family, and I went back later in life to Lipscomb University. It had changed its name by then, and got a degree in business. So whenever I was going to Lipscomb, solid waste was not on my radar screen. And I came to work for the county right out of college, and probably a couple of years later, I wound up in the solid waste department. My predecessor saw something in me, and he wanted me on his team, and he gave me a great opportunity to learn the industry. And then you gave me the ultimate opportunity about 10 years ago, and made me director when he retired. And you mentioned women in the solid waste industry. 10 years ago, I think there was maybe one other in the state of Tennessee. Now there are several. We recently had a conference of the solid waste directors, and there are several.
But you're still
women.
a minority.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I used to joke around in the beginning that they really didn't know what to do with me. But it's a great bunch, a great group.
So if people that are watching this show, they'll say, well, what does one take in school? Now, you kind of grew up in the industry, and you had Louis Bumpus is who
Yes.
we're talking about.
Yes.
Most everyone remembers him, and he was kind of a forerunner in some of the things that he did.
Yes. And
you've improved, changed, made corrections. What does one study if they're interested in going into your profession for this next generation, if they're going to school?
There are several different ways you could go. I mean, I have a business degree, so I'm more tuned into the administrative side, the financial side of it. I also generally tell people I do not have all the answers, but I do know where to find them. I do know how to track down the people that have the answers. So I have a great staff is the reason I can do what I do.
Oh, you do?
They're fabulous.
I mean, certainly Jennifer, we're going to hear a little from her, but
yes.
I mean, Ted's been with us for
30 plus.
30 plus years,
Yes.
overseeing the operations. I mean, I encourage people to go out off of Pinewood Road and look at the facility.
Yes.
It's hard to believe in today's, maybe it's not for a lot of people, but it's incredible. It's an engineering feat. What has to occur for it to perform and stay that way without the smells and the odors and the sight. It's just incredible what goes on in a landfill today as opposed to 25 years ago.
It's a highly regulated, highly engineered construction project.
We'll get into some of the mechanics. Jennifer, you're certainly a lot younger than I am. What kind of, give us a little history on where you've gone in life, and how'd you get to this point?
So I actually grew up here, and I graduated from Brentwood High. And funny enough, one of the teachers I work with now, Doug Anderson, he was my teacher, my environmental science teacher when I graduated here at Brentwood High. And then I went to the University of Tennessee where I got a bachelor's degree in public relations. And then kind of came here fresh out of college. I've actually been here 5.5 years now, which sounds like a really long time to me.
We're so fortunate to have her, so fortunate.
So kind of have grown up here.
And Nancy's got you focusing just on recycling.
Yeah.
And what's the importance of recycling? I remember 30 years ago when you were in, well, not even 30, it was before time, 20 years ago, I'll say, but 30 years ago, we were recycling a phone book. Well, my grandchildren don't even know what a phone book is anymore,
right.
But we had programs back then, if you'll remember, that we were collecting phone books from our individual schools. They would raise money, and that money would go back to the schools. Because we had to do it that way because old fuddy-duds like me just were not buying into recycling. But if you get those children doing it, they embarrass you. They drive home the importance of, at that time, Dad, we need to start collecting phone books, and next thing you know, we were doing cardboard, and next thing we know, we're doing plastics, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and that's part of, or my favorite part actually, of my job is facilitating that school program. And we focus on all the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, and recycle, with the heaviest emphasis on waste reduction and how we can lessen our impact on the planet. And so now the program has really evolved into, we have a tree planting program each March. We do a reading program each April. It's evolved into quite a little thing we've got going on.
Nancy, something happened January the 1st, 2020. We kind of missed the boat, I guess, of getting the show on a little bit earlier, my fault. But what happened on January 1st, 2020?
Williamson County went back to taking plastics 1s and 2s only in their plastic recycling.
What does that mean?
Several years ago, about 10 years ago, we went from 1s and 2s only to 1s through 7s because there was a strong, reliable market for that. But those markets are no longer.
And the numbers mean a different grade of plastic.
Yes, they do. And I think Jennifer is probably going to talk to you a little bit about how to determine the difference on that. But yes, and it wasn't just us. It was the city of Franklin as well. They, January 1, rolled out their bin program. They were using blue bags before at curbside, and now they have what they call Bin Franklin, which I think is so cute, such a cute name for their little blue bins. But they are going back to the 1s and 2s only as well. And the city of Spring Hill, they have a collection through Waste Management, a curbside recycling collection, and they collect the plastics 1s and 2s
Why are
only.
we doing this? Why are we having to go back? Besides the availability, the product doesn't have a value, but why? What happened?
China happened, and China was trying to clean up their own country. Approximately, this started about 2 years ago, but approximately 1/3 of the plastics that were recycled in the U.S. were going to China. And China just said, no more. We are not going to be the world's dumping ground. We're going to try to clean up our country. And so they put a ban on foreign recyclables, and they have some very specific restrictions for what they actually do accept now. Right now, I think they're only taking maybe 5% of the plastic from the U.S. So this caused a glut in the market. It gets back to just basic supply and demand. So we had way too much supply and not enough market demand for it, so it drove the price down. But the lack of reliable markets is the true driving force for this. There just are not markets.
Well, why don't we just throw it in our trash?
That's a really good question, too. We're committed to recycling, but the 3 through 7s we are putting in our trash at this point. There just is no market for it. But the 1s and 2s, it does have value.
You want to show me your demonstration?
Sure.
So what is the
So-
one? What is the two?
Yeah.
Let's talk us through. Pretend that Nancy and I are students in the.
Okay. So to tell if a plastic is recyclable, you first have to look for that recycling symbol. And sometimes they're tricky to find. But most of our number one plastic, it just has a different ingredients to our 2s, 3s, etc. Just like I compare it to cupcakes. Chocolate cupcakes and strawberry cupcakes, still delicious, yummy cupcakes. But you have to make them slightly differently so that they can be what you asked for. So if you want a plastic number one, it's going to be kind of crinkly like this and have these similar properties to a water bottle. On this one, the symbol is actually at the bottom and it's super small and kind of hidden in there. And so sometimes you kind of have to look for it. But that recycling symbol is going to be a triangle with the 3 arrows. You want to make sure it has a 1 or a 2. So this water bottle has a 1, so you could recycle it in our bin. Our other water bottle right here, this we know is a number 1 plastic. However, it doesn't have a number 1 in the logo. So City of Franklin and then our team with Williamson County, we've come up with the fun little phrase of when in doubt, throw it out. If you're not sure if something can go in the recycling bin, it's actually better to put it in the trash.
Yes.
Because the goal is for this to actually get recycled. We can collect whatever we want in Williamson County, but if we don't have someone to buy it and turn it into something new, it's not really getting recycled. So if you're sure that this is number 1, you can recycle it, but if you find something that doesn't have a number in it, when in doubt, throw it out. So we're looking for a number 1, like we found on this, or a number 2.
So can
on
I
our milk
interrupt you?
jug.
Why wouldn't in this particular case the private label Kroger put a 1 on it?
That's a great question, and that's really something
is.
that we want to bring up to corporations and manufacturers. As the recycling industry professionals, we're responding to what manufacturers create. And the more that they create 3 through 7, where we don't have a reliable market, we're now left with this waste stream, and we're not sure what to do. We're not sure how to keep up with the consumer demand. And so it is the best thing you can do, again, going back to those 3 R's, try and reduce your impact. Opt for things that you know you can use over and over again, like these cups we have. It's better to bring your own cup, wash it out, reuse it over and over.
Now washing it out may be pushing it in. Coffee has a different flavor
After
it's
you,
just-
yeah, let it set for a minute.
Yeah.
Let it mature. But these single-use plastics, I mean, that's what they are. These are intended for single use. So this becomes waste, and we do have a waste problem in America and here in Tennessee. So recycling right, so just making sure you recycle those 1s and 2s is important. But the even better thing to do is to bring your reusable bags and your cups and reduce and reuse first.
So the products that are not 1 and 2, 3 through 7, will those 3 through 7 have numbers on them?
Yes.
And so if we see that number, or if it's not identified by some number, then it's better to discard that in your regular trash that you're bringing to us, or if you're in the city, being picked up by them.
Yes.
Correct. It's unfortunate, and we don't like it either. We wish we could magically, turn every product into something new, so we divert it from the landfill. We have a term we call wish cyclers, and those are really, really lovely people who are trying their best to do the right thing. But what a wish cycler is doing is essentially diverting at home everything from their trash can into their recycle bin in hopes that some recycling fairy on the other end will make use of that product. But what actually happens is those contaminants like food waste, when things aren't properly rinsed out, or 3 through 7 non-recyclable items. What happens is that all junks up our recycling process. So when it gets to our county's material recovery facility, that's like our recycling hub, there are actually people who are picking out all of those contaminants. And for us to be able to recycle a load, there has to be less than 7% contamination. If we send a load that is too contaminated to a buyer, they have the right to reject that load, and then we pay the shipping both ways. And the items didn't even get recycled. It was just a really, really expensive route to the landfill.
One of the things that I did last year in the state of the county was to mention the peanut butter jar.
Yes.
And it's really the peanut butter plastic jar. I guess there's somebody still putting peanut butter in a glass, but majority of it's in plastic. And I made the reference in my conversation about clean out the peanut butter before you throw it. And I've had more people to say they never thought about that.
Yeah.
And that's all we're trying to do on shows like this. And your job out with the schools is to educate people on the proper way to recycle. There are many, many things that hit that landfill that we try to separate at different points. One of those separation points we've affectionately in this county and many other counties have recycling centers or convenience centers that we've got. And there's always rumors out there that go on about, well, Nancy's men and women, they just pick that up and take it out to the landfill. True or false?
Absolutely false.
Right.
With the exception of what she just said.
Yes.
If the loads are contaminated, yes, they will just take the scenic, very expensive route to the landfill. But contamination, can come in several forms. The food waste, many people don't realize that the cheese at the bottom of the pizza box, that is a contaminant. A dog food can, if you don't get the residue out of that, that's a contaminant. The wish cycling, the plastics 3s through 7s, all of that just leads to contamination. And then our favorite are plastic bags. Please, please, please stop putting plastic bags in our recycling. People maybe they collect up their plastic bottles, which are recyclable, and they put them in a plastic container, a plastic bag, and then they'll put it in the bin when they get to the convenience center. When that gets to the MRF, somebody's got to open that bag up and dump it out. If it winds up at a sorting facility, it can tangle up the mechanics. If you insist on recycling the plastic bags, take them to the grocery store. Most of the grocery stores have a bin outside that's specifically for that. But to answer your question about the rumor that it is floating around, and yes, we are aware of that rumor, it kind of makes us sad, actually, is we do not landfill the recycling unless it's contaminated. Actually, we take it a little bit step further. We are so committed to recycling in Williamson County, we actually pay to recycle glass. So I think you might be asking the question or thinking right now, Nancy, is that really cost effective? Yes, it is, absolutely. It's based on avoided cost. So if we don't recycle something, it does have to go to the landfill, and we've got to handle it. And for an item to be landfilled, we have to pay for that to be landfilled, and it's costly. I think there's a bit of a misconception amongst the public that solid waste disposal is free. You just take it to the convenience center. You don't pay anything when you get there. You throw it in and it disappears and everything's free, but it's not. And what we pay for recycling the glass is actually much less than if we were to landfill the glass.
So when we talk about, and you got this out for a reason, Jennifer.
Yeah, we were talking about contamination
Okay.
and rinsing out that peanut butter jug, so I thought a demonstration could be helpful. So this was a milk jug. It's empty of milk, and it's actually been rinsed out, and it's mostly dry. You can see there's a little bit of drops left in it, which is totally fine, but this is what we're looking for. So when you're recycling that 1 and 2 plastic or that cardboard, we want it to be clean of any food residue or other residue. Again, empty, rinsed out, mostly dry. So that might help with some people who are a little confused of what exactly do you want from us? This is what we want.
Go back to the landfill issue. I know because I look at your budget and you are constantly every year trying to figure out a way to save money, but there are just some costs that you have to have. Those pieces of machinery that we buy or rent or lease or repair are very specific and for a landfill to
Yes.
move the products. But even before you do that, if you just took this table, if the consumer could realize that it's not a matter of just dumping in the landfill. There's a lot of preparation on this table long before the first product goes in.
Right.
It costs a lot of money. Take us through that, like a sale.
Yes, a landfill sale. First, the what we call class 1 garbage, that's the household garbage. That is what comes out of your kitchen, just what comes out of your home. We don't currently bury that on our site in Williamson County. We bury what is called class 3 garbage, which is...
Where does one go?
It goes to a waste management landfill in Camden. It's actually transported out of county. And that is, the reason we transport it out is, at this point, it's the most cost effective.
Sure.
So, but we currently do bury construction and demolition waste. Now, we're talking about the preparing those cells for use. The class 1 garbage, the household garbage, is a much larger process than the construction and demolition. It's lined. There's a leachate collection system. There are layers it has to have it headed a certain way toward the leachate drains toward the leachate collection system. And
Garbage juice.
Yeah.
we
All it is garbage juice.
It is.
I've heard you say that before.
Yeah. We actually have a leachate collection system for our construction and demolition landfill, though.
What's the average cost of a sale?
Oh, wow.
Depending on the size of the sale.
I think the last I heard was $1 to $1.5 million an acre.
So it does cost something.
Oh, it does. And that's actually kind of,
Cheap.
yeah.
That's on the economic side.
Yeah.
When I first became mayor and I saw some of these numbers that were coming in, and of course everything has changed and evolved into what we're doing today, and you've got federal and state regulations, plus your own residents to live around the landfill that we have. You don't want to wake up one day and have driven MOs. So it's very costly.
Yes.
To take these products. Now there are some counties, Camden, that you mentioned, and well, that's not it, and Rutherford County, Davidson County has their facilities, but a lot of counties don't have landfill, and it is not only from an economic standpoint, but there are some counties that use that as a source of revenue that they
Right.
have got to have. They're not as blessed as we are here in Williamson County with the tax base and the sales tax and all the things. Some of the more rural counties have chosen to say, well, we'll take these things that maybe aren't as, they don't have the contaminants as some of the others. Food for the most part doesn't have a lot of contaminants. Now, if you throw something in it, it changes the complexity of that. But I appreciate you bringing that up about there is a cost
Yes.
at our recycling. And of course, we always have the challenges of people from out of our county. I mean, taxpayers that live in Williamson County pay for that product, just like we do for our schools. We don't allow
Right.
young people, there's good intentions coming in from Davidson County and Marshall County, but your local tax base pays for the education. Your local tax dollars pays for the recycling and for the solid waste. So we have very stringent rules about people coming in from other counties using our convenience centers.
Yes.
And we will continue to have that. And then we get into the commercial side. It's fine for you and I to clean out our garage and take it to the landfill or take it to the convenience center if it's one pickup truck. Otherwise, you got to take it to the landfill. We'll take all you've got coming out of your house. But people that you hire to take that out is a different thing. You're paying them, and so there's a difference of them bringing their products from your house than just you. And we need to be mindful of that, or construction people, and et cetera, et cetera. And it's always a problem.
Always.
Always a problem, always will be a problem. But we're limited on the number of space. I do not want to have to go buy another landfill. That's no fun.
No, we don't.
That is no fun. So we're doing, you're doing. And we ask all people to do what you can to extend the life of our landfill way out into the futures, because permitting, getting another place for a landfill it's not an easy process, nor is it one that a community wants. We're very thankful in those years gone past that where our landfill is located, it was in a good section. Now it's amazing. Houses have popped up because of the way that you manage the landfill. People aren't as threatened by landfills,
Right.
and the appearance of it. So, well, we got about 2 or 3 minutes left, and I'm sure I have forgotten something that needs to get out to the general public about recycling in 2020, the year of the Olympics.
Well, I'd actually like to invite the community to come to our material recovery facility. We call it MRF for short, but our education program extends beyond kindergarten through 12th grade classrooms. We host these public tours of our MRF where you actually will get a clear outline of what our solid waste stream looks like in Williamson County. And then we actually go into the MRF behind the scenes. We'll walk the floor of the facility, and you can point at a bale of cardboard and ask us, who did you sell that to and what's it being turned into? And we can answer those questions for you. Because we really want people to know that we do take recycling seriously and we do care, and we want to be as transparent as possible so that people feel like they're involved.
You didn't give them the address. Where do they go, or how do they make contact?
They can contact me anytime they'd like,
How do
either
they do
by
that?
phone or email. You can call my office at 615-786-0166, or just send me an email. It's just jennifer.stanley@williamsoncounty tn.gov, or go to our website where the email is much better.
The people here will put it on the bottom
Yeah, I
of the
know.
screen. They'll
Fix
get it
that for
correct.
me, please. But yeah, please do.
And we're at the end of what street?
At Century Court. We are up on the hill of Century Court, but we try to make it as fun as possible, where you hopefully learn a lot and you actually see what our waste stream looks like behind the scenes.
That's a great idea. I've been out there several times, and there's another function that I think we still do out there, don't we? The recycling of the paper.
The shred day,
shredding,
every
shredding.
Tuesday, yes.
Totally free.
What day is that?
It's on Tuesdays.
And I mean, those old checkbooks that we keep around, you don't. We keep around forever. I've got some that are probably 20 years old. Nancy, we got less than a minute. What can we that I've not touched on that's important to you?
I think we have hit it all. I'll hit the high points. Recycle right. Just we're going back to these plastics 1s and 2s. Just keep the waste streams clean. And if you do, go to our convenience centers. Be kind. Our attendants have a really hard job, and believe it or not, a lot of people are kind of mean to them because they're there to instruct where things go and about the rules. You had mentioned the rules, and to keep out of county out. So.
And the other thing I want to mention, looking for a good part-time job, put this phone number up to the staff.
Yes,
We're always looking for people to be at our convenience. Thank you,
Yes.
both ladies. Hope the 2020 year is a great one for you. We're off to a great start on our recycling. And
Already, yes.
Yes, we are. I'm Rogers Anderson. We close out today. See you around the next time.